Another episode of Kicking Off with me, Kevin Egan. Here we go. I hope you and your loved ones are keeping well. Now, 2020 has been a wild year. It's been a wacky year. But the best thing to come out of 2020 in terms of television, for me, it's Ted Lasso. Turn off the debates, turn on Ted Lasso. It's going to give you that feel-good factor about life again. It's going to draw some tears, but it's also going to make sure you laugh along the way. It's such a good show. I cannot speak highly enough about this. So well done to all involved, and thanks for giving us the laughs. And I'm thrilled to welcome today one of the creators of the show, and certainly one of the most lovable characters. We're kicking off today with Coach Beard. Brendan Hunt, aka Coach Beard, thank you so much for taking the time. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm buzzing to have you on because genuinely, I mean it sincerely, thank you for what you guys have done. Yourself, Jason, Bill, who has, kindly gotten involved on Twitter when you praise the show. He'll comment on it. And you guys have put together such a huge effort with Ted Lasso. And I think during the dumpster fire year that we're all having right now, it's exactly the show that we need. Yeah,
that's been awfully gratifying. I mean, we lack the ability to foretell this year's events, sadly. We just don't have those talents. We'll try harder next time. But since this is what's happening, it's nice that is magnifying people's propensity to receive this show, and hopefully we're keeping people in a decent mood.
It feels mental to even ask this, but with the show the way it is, the feel-good factor around the show, has 2020 helped? The fact that people need it for mental health, to sit down for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, whatever it is, and watch something that makes them feel good.
I mean, I would trade away everything that's happened in 2020, if it meant not having this show anymore. But on some level, that is true. People are trapped at home and they're receptive to a new thing, especially something that is not the amount of caterwauling that they're getting just by turning turning on the radio, the TV, anything. Like, it's just such a stressed out time that I think a bit of emotional oases is doing some good.
No, it's true. Hey, can we go back a little bit, because you're from Chicago, and I'm a Chicago boy deep down. My ma grew up a stone's throw from Wrigley Field, where and love very well. I used to be the commentator for the Chicago Fire, and I've heard you talk all about the Bears before. I've heard you talk about the Bulls. I've yet to hear you talk about the Fire. I've got my MLS jerseys here. I represent Atlanta United now, but Chicago Fire back in the day. Come on, Brendan. You've been to games, have you?
Well, no, I've never been to a Chicago Fire game. I've been to a Chicago Fire Galaxy game out here. I'm in LA now, but I moved from Chicago to Amsterdam in early '99, and the Chicago Fire had existed for exactly one season, their debut title-winning season, as I believe.
That's
under
right.
Bob Bradley and with DeMarcus
Bob Bradley, correct? Yeah.
But I was not a soccer person yet at all. I didn't become a soccer fan until I moved to Amsterdam, and that's when I became a absolute devotee / moron, whichever one of those seems more accurate. So in terms of the Chicago Fire, they're the only, though I used to have one of those red jerseys, pre-sponsored jerseys, and it was one of my favorite jerseys I've ever had. I wish I still had it.
That just said Fire on it?
Yeah. I don't know what happened to it. It really upsets me. But the Chicago Fire are the only Chicago team that I am not giving the full extent of my heart to still, because they came along a bit late, and soccer is a sport where I feel like I do have to support my local club. So I'm going to LAFC matches, and it's a rowdy time over there.
LAFC. I'll have to get on to my buddy Max Bredus about that. He's the commentator over there.
Yep.
That's a class stadium. It's the one, I think Seattle and LAFC are the two different stadia that I've yet to go to in MLS, because I travel doing the games now for Fox Sports and Atlanta United, which is one of my favorite things about this job, is just getting to see the different cities, and from Salt Lake City, Utah to LA, like you say, or New York, and I can't wait to go to LAFC. So looking forward to that. Bit of a downer year for both Atlanta United and LAFC this season, but a long way to go yet. Chicago, ketchup on the hot dogs, yes or
no? There's so much about being a Chicagoan that is like, it's gatekeeper patrol and all this binary stuff. Like, if you're a real Chicagoan, you have to do it this way. Well, when I was a kid, I was a very picky eater, and no one was telling me not to put ketchup on the hot dog, which is fine, because if I hadn't, it would have been a plain hot dog every time. If Chicago want to put ketchup on their hot dog, just do it.
I
you're
got
flying.
crucified. I got crucified for saying I like ketchup on a hot dog. Apparently, it's sacrilegious in Chicago. You just don't do that. You went to Amsterdam. Tell us a little bit about that, Brendan, if you would, because it transformed you in terms of your love for the game, which then obviously percolated through to your time with Ted Lasso and your influence on the show. So that came from Holland, and obviously I've got a bit of a Johan Cruyff book here as well, and his influence screams out over in Holland.
See, I've got the biography.
Nice.
Got the book of interviews.
Beautiful.
Of course, I got Brilliant Orange. Can't go wrong with Brilliant Orange. And then you get your Robin van Persie doll as well.
Get in there. So you're a real fan. You're a real football fan at this point.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm addicted, and there will be no cure. And it started at this place, Boom Chicago, which is a comedy and sketch theater in Amsterdam that was founded by Chicagoans, and it shows in English because Dutch people speak better English than we do. Yeah. But they didn't have improv there, so improv seems like absolute wizardry to the Dutch. So it's kind of like the Second City show, except with more like tech and techno. But it was my first professional acting job, as it was for a handful of pretty cool people, Seth Meyers, Jordan Peele, like Barinholtz, many others. And it was a time of our lives, and this was before you could just stream a Bears game or a Bulls game on the interwebs. So I had kind of a sports-shaped hole in my life, and I just kind of gravitated towards soccer. And eventually I lived with at one point I lived with 9 Dutch guys who all knew each other from college. And Holland co-hosted Euro 2000. And for Euro 2000, my roommates built bleachers in our living room. Like they did the carpentry, they bought the wood, they did the measuring, they did the weight calculations. And to spend an entire month with bleachers in your living room, it changes a man.
Are Dutch people funny? Be honest with me. Because the ones I've met are very stoic, and stoic is a euphemism for something else.
They are. They absolutely are. But when you first meet them, they come off cranky because they have absolutely no compunction about sharing whatever is on their mind. And if
you're not used to that.
What?
You're not used to that, no?
Not exactly. Not the way they do it. And if you come at them speaking English, then in particular, they're on guard because they assume, whether, even if we're American or Irish, they assume that we are drunk English people who are going to trash whatever store or cafe that we're in at the moment. So they're always on guard. But you get a little further in the conversation, and yeah, they're a grand and lovely bunch.
Love it. How did Arsenal come about? You're a Gunners fan.
Right. There are a couple of reasons there. One is, Arsenal had Dennis Bergkamp and Mark Overmars at the time, so Dutch people were like, "Hey, wow. Check out Arsenal." Plus, I was, there was more English language coverage of Arsenal than there was of Ajax. I still have a soft spot for Ajax, mind you. And then I read Fever Pitch, having just read High Fidelity in Chicago the year before, and Fever Pitch, not knowing anything about soccer at all, and not knowing what the Rumbelows Cup is or the Littlewoods Cup or who Anders Limpar is, like, this guy speaks the language of being a fan of something. He's talking about male obsession in a way that just, translated well to me. It was like, okay, I'm open to Arsenal. And then, and I've talked about this before, but I'll say it again because it was a beautiful day. I happened to be walking past an internet cafe where Chelsea was beating Arsenal 2-0 with 20 minutes left at Stamford Bridge. And then 5 minutes later, Canu kicked off a 15-minute hat trick, with the third goal in particular being borderline physically impossible.
The one nearly from the sideline.
Yeah. Yeah, after scooting past Ed de Goeie. And, to see a performance like that when you're still forming your opinion about things, there was no more forming of opinion. It was done. You don't choose your club chooses you. And that day I was chosen.
You don't choose your club chooses you. Beautifully said, Brendan. Love it. My only interaction with I got to work with Ruud Gullit, which was a wonderful experience. We covered El Clasico together. So we were on the sideline hosting Real Madrid, Barcelona, and hearing his stories from Milan. And then I got to know Frank de Boer quite well recently from his time with Atlanta United. Now he's the Dutch national team coach as well. And I think, to be honest with you, I'm going to be probably a little bit too honest here, Frank could use a little bit of what Ted has. Now, what Frank has in the X's and O's, maybe he doesn't have in what Ted has in abundance, which is that ability to reach inside of someone and reframe. And how did you guys manage to come up with this character that's so unbelievably brilliant in every single way? Because I wish I had a coach like Ted. I don't care about the X's and O's of the game. And this is the fascinating part of all this. The more players I speak to, the more coaches I speak to, the more executives I speak to within the game, the more you realize that coaches are so focused on the X's and O's nowadays that they fail to relate to the human being. And this show just made me sit back in my chair and go, we need more Ted Lassos.
That's very cool to hear. And you're probably spot on about Frank de Boer. I mean, he can't be this bad a coach, right? There's no way. There's something that's missing.
I mean, we'll see. He certainly won 2 trophies in Atlanta. So he did something right. He won the Campeones Cup and the US Open Cup. But in terms of relating to the players, that's where I think it was a big problem. So that's where Ted, if you can get a hold of Jamie the way he did in the show, I think he could do anything.
Well, I mean, first of all, let's acknowledge the similarities between Ted and Frank are that they both coached from the sidelines of Selhurst Park. But Ted, yeah, I mean, so it started, as a sketch, obviously, basically when we did the commercials, it was very broad and just kind of, playing the ugly American. Then for the second ones, like we found the sort of more like sensitive, inquisitive, caring angle. And then when we started talking about trying to make it a series, it was like, okay, well, he can't be broad. He has to be a real, grounded person. And to some degree, Jason is drawing off of his experiences in sports. He has a lot of experience in basketball, organized basketball from a younger age, and he had a lot of really cool coaches. And he's friends with Bill Self at Kansas, and Bill Self there's a lot of him in Ted Lasso. But on some level, we're just drawing from good old Midwestern people we know. And it's sort of slightly exaggerated into television form, but we're not coming completely out of left field here. Like we feel like there are still people like this. They just aren't getting any FaceTime lately.
Really? You're right, though, because there's people I know, I'm sure, that you could draw little and take little things from them and their personalities and create a Ted Lasso. Were you shocked by the hit that it's become? Have you been shocked? And have Apple been shocked? Because I mean, for me, I was a skeptic, I'll be honest. A friend of mine, Mike Wolf, said to me one day, we worked together at the Big Ten Network in Chicago. We've kept in touch. And he said to me, Kev, you got to get onto Ted Lasso. And I'm not the biggest, I looked at the commercials and I loved them, but I didn't think I'd like the TV show. Halfway into episode 1, I was hooked completely because you embraced the English glass half empty style of things. You embraced the hooligan style culture nearly at times over in football in Europe. And there's nothing false about it in that way. And that's what made it so real in a way and so likable.
Well, thanks. Yeah. I mean, we tried, in terms of the Englishness of it, like we tried to get it right. And we tried to, even if we're getting it wrong, doing stuff wrong in a way that we are at least honoring the subject. Like we all love, football now from our time in Amsterdam, because Jason did time in that theater in Amsterdam, and Joe Kelly, the other creator, before Bill Lawrence came along, Joe had also been in Amsterdam. And we love English stuff. We love English culture. And this is despite, having Irish blood. I know my forefathers would be furious, but like I got raised on Monty Python and Doctor Who long before I knew what the word Anglophile was. So we're trying to, we can't actually duplicate the stuff, but we're trying to honor it as best we can.
Yeah. What was the most fun scene from season 1 when you think about it? Like, was it the part in the pub with the fans? Like, was there one moment that really stood out?
Well, the scene where we broke the most was in episode 6, where it's me, Tahib, who plays Sam, and Brett, who plays Roy, and Jeremy, who plays Higgins, and Nick, who plays Nate, and Jason, talking about the training room is cursed. And, we intentionally slotted that as a slightly sillier episode, having followed episode 5, which has a lot of pretty heavy stuff going on. Yeah. But we kept, we had that dolly shot in to Nick's face for him to say, the training room is cursed. And that must have taken 20 takes. And then we're all goofing off. And there was never 30 contiguous seconds of dialogue because we just could not stop breaking, which is reflective of the fact that it was a fun shoot. Like everyone was great. Everyone was awesome. There were no turkeys, as Jason says. And we just got really lucky with not only a talented bunch, but everybody was a good hang.
The scene for me that I broke the most was Nate when he lost it at the guys and he was allowed to do the team talk. Tell me you broke at that part too.
Well, that one we had known was coming for a long time. Like okay. We knew that in the arc of Nate's story that would be coming. So by the time we got to that, because Jason was basically in charge of that speech, but he had me chipping in, and so by the time it came along, I knew exactly what was going to be happening. So more than breaking, it was about just sitting back and watching Nick Muhammad work, because that guy is a master. But that was absolutely one of the most fun days.
Is there any character in the show, Brendan, that is similar in real life? Because I'll be honest, I'd be absolutely devastated if I met the real Roy Kent and he was actually more like Ted Lasso.
We are, well, unfortunately, that's true. Brett Goldstein is an absolute teddy bear of a man. Yeah, he is. So in terms of being the most similar to their character, I think it's probably Keeley as played by Juno. Juno is giddy and bubbly and bawdy, and yet she's hardly been cast in any comedies up to now. She's always cast as the ingenue who runs away. But she is an absolute delight to work with. She's a bowl of strawberries, and she's a lot like her character in the long run, especially the bawdy part. She's a salty lass, that Juno Temple.
I love it. If you had a message for any fans out there, potential fans that is, that have yet to dive in, that were a skeptic like I was, how would you pitch Ted Lasso to the non-soccer fan?
I would first of all say, good news, the show's not about soccer. It happens to take place in the soccer world, but it's an ensemble workplace comedy. And give it at least 2 episodes. Go on. Because there are there's a couple of English journalists who have been among the very few who are not totally on board on this show, which is fine. You don't have to be, except for 2 things. One, it's clear that some haven't actually watched much of it, if any, and are still talking about it. But 2, since they haven't watched it, they don't know yet that the entire construct of this is Ted Lasso being underestimated by people making decisions too quickly about him. And so the fact that some people are doing that exact thing just tickles me.
It's so much easier to say something negative than it is positive, and dive in, like you say, give it a go. I'm telling everybody to do the same thing. I'm even encouraging people, just do the week free trial on Apple. Just go and do the free trial, binge it if you have to. But I'll be honest, Brendan, I enjoyed the fact that it was every Friday night, and I'd usually have a game at the weekend. I'd prepare during the day if I had a game on Saturday, and then that became our break. My wife and I get the little guy down to bed and just kick back with a bourbon or a beer or a cup of tea and watch it on a Friday night. And then we'd talk it through, and we talk about the different layers of the show. And I just didn't expect all those layers. And that's what hit me the most in 2020. It was like, damn, this is exactly what we need.
Oh, that's lovely. So thank you. In the end, I liked having it every week too. It's been so long since we've done something that way, really, except for the odd HBO show. But to see the sort of buildup of response on Twitter every weekend, which you wouldn't have had if it was all binged at once. It'd be like one big burst and it'll be over. And instead, it was this sustained engagement of people with the show, and that was really, really awesome.
You've been renewed for season 2. Congratulations. Mm-hmm. How will you construct season 2 with again, I've mentioned the dumpster fire year we're having. Will that play a role? I'm sure it will have to in some way or another.
I think we have basically decided not to have it play a role. So by the time season, and it's just because of the chance of how the timing of this worked out all for us. We ended filming season 1 before this all happened. It came out while this is happening. We're going to start shooting season 2 in early next year, but then it's not going to come out till late next year, by which time one hopes this is kind of over. So I think this will be the show that is a respite. I hear that there are some shows that are making a big thing of it. I think Superstore, for example, they're shooting it all very much in the COVID world, which will be awesome. But by the time this thing comes out again in late 2021, fingers crossed, this will be something like old news.
Yeah, wonderful. Before I let you go, huge congratulations. I saw on your Instagram, you're expecting a baby boy, I believe, is it?
We are indeed. Thank you very much. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be born in London.
In London. Well, that's good, right? I mean, well, except with Brexit, you may not get the European passport, right?
Yeah, they might not let us travel back home with that child. But other than that, it should be fine.
Brendan, do yourself a solid. Jump across to Ireland about a week or 2 before you think the baby's going to be born. Get the Irish passport instead. More valuable.
Sold.
Brendan, thank you so much. Really, genuinely congratulations. And on a serious note, thank you for what you guys have done to bring a little bit of positivity to 2020.
I appreciate it, Kevin. Thank you, man.
Brendan Hunt, Coach Beard, we love you. Thank you so much for taking the time. Really do appreciate it, and love Ted Lasso. Really enjoy the show. I can't speak highly enough of this. So go and check it out. You can even binge all of season 1 in one night, probably. Just 10 episodes, but then you have to wait nearly a year to look forward to season 2. Go and do it. It makes you feel good about life again. Please, folks, if you can, hit that subscribe button on YouTube and on podcast. It just goes a long way. And if you're enjoying these chats, tell a friend. Appreciate it. Take care. We'll see you next week.